think what got us to this point of thank you, of
Yeah.
deciding this, where we got to this point of deciding this was, all right, let's talk about technology leadership, but really from our DEI, space,
Yeah.
what we're talking about are building leaders that are representative of the workforce that we're also trying to build. And we all know that when we see people that look like us, we're more likely to step into the room. It's just a human behavior. And so that was, I had a concussion a couple of weeks ago, so I may have imagined that I had that conversation with y'all, but I'm pretty sure that's the conversation that we had. There was some element of that in there.
So do I need to ask, what did you do to get a concussion?
Oh,
Like,
Lord.
what's going on?
Yeah, I appreciate this being memorialized, but here's what I did. I was doing laundry. So
Wow.
my argument is laundry is bad for your health at this point, but I was doing laundry. And sometimes you'll get those sweatshirt cords that'll get stuck like in a weird crevice inside your dryer. So that happened, and I was kind of pulling on it, and I couldn't see it. So I kind of like was leaning down to like pull on it, and I squatted down and didn't brace myself as this was going on. And as it came loose, I just wailed my head on the front of the dryer from about a foot away. Like it was not a subtle bump. And I ended up in it was 4 days later, I went to the emergency room because I was dizzy and not feeling well, and my headache would not go away. My vision was blurring. And I live alone. So my husband lives in Texas, and he was just like, you need to go to the emergency room. He's like, I will not sleep tonight unless you go get checked out. So laundry is hazardous for my health.
What I would advise is I was skiing on black diamonds.
Yeah, exactly.
I know, it's such an embarrassing story, but I'm like, you know what? It fits for me though, too, at the same time. Like these are the kinds of things I do. I sprained my ankle stepping on a dog toy on my way to NUBOCO's annual meeting 2 years ago. So yeah, thanks, sir.
Okay.
This is my life. Oh, there's Tracy.
Wow.
Tracy's a committee member.
Accident prone. All right, we got you.
It's on brand for me.
Tony, I was in your neck of the woods yesterday for, I gotta find my paper, Connect-a-Ha. That sound right?
Yeah, know about Connect-a-Ha. I'm not, did they have that down at what's the last time they had it was in Connecticut. So where did you?
It was at
it
was at the college.
Okay.
At the tech, I think, building within the college, and then I'd say probably about 100, maybe 100 folks there. But,
okay, awesome.
Hey, I'm all for anytime that there's technology professionals like speaking to other technology professionals. I think that's a net positive.
I think we had somebody there. One of my associates, Monica Philp, I think was there. If I'm not mistaken.
Saw her. I didn't actually see her session, but I know she. Okay. Yeah, I saw her on the agenda.
Yeah. So, no, that's awesome. I didn't get a chance to make it out there, but glad to hear that was well participated and hopefully went off well.
Good day to be on the road and get a little windshield time.
Yeah, gotcha.
So Tony, who do you work for? I
work for the AIM Institute.
Okay.
And so, I don't know if you've heard of them before, but a nonprofit that is trying to grow a more strong and diverse tech workforce.
Good.
Yeah.
And where in Nebraska?
Omaha.
Okay.
Omaha, Nebraska. Yeah. So we focus mainly on Nebraska, but we also provide some services in Council Bluffs and Red Oak and some of those areas over there. So we're doing some pretty good work.
All right, so Jennifer, I've got looks like about 7 people waiting. Do you want me to start it off?
Get started.
All right, everybody ready? Awesome.
Sure.
We're gonna need to get a theme song for these. Talk to Molly about that.
All right. Well, we're at 12:01, so we'll start here. Thank you everyone for registering, for attending this session. This is I think one of many good conversations that the DEI group has been hosting and will continue to host throughout the year. My name is Tyler Wyngarden. I'm with the Technology Association of Iowa. This topic today, I know, is specifically around professional development, continued education, and is generously facilitated by Jennifer Smith. So I'm going to throw it to her to lead the session, and then certainly if you have questions, feel free to enter them in the chat, and we'll work together to hopefully answer as many as possible. So Jennifer, I'll give the floor to you.
All right, thanks, Tyler. All right, well, hey, welcome everybody. We've been doing this for a few months now, where we just get together over a lunch hour here in Central Time Zone and gather to talk about some different topics that we find interesting, really as it pertains to technology and the state of Iowa. So a couple of sessions ago, when our committee was meeting, we stumbled on this idea of talking about leadership in technology in Iowa. And I think what we intersected with, or what we came down to as we got through this discussion, is we have a lot of conversation and we put a lot of energy and effort into building this more diverse workforce within our state, diverse on all kinds of levels, this big multidimensional perspective of it. But we all know that when we are talking about building that workforce, we know that people are also looking at those rooms that they might want to step into, and they're looking for people that are like them on all of those different levels. So there's been this kind of, but I'll just use a farming metaphor since we're in Iowa. There have been these seeds planted around the state with different organizations that are really looking at the technology leadership workforce, as well as the workforce that is coming in. And I think sometimes they're one and the same. Sometimes those emerging leaders are stepping right out of a schoolhouse. Sometimes they're going through programs, and sometimes they're just attending some development sessions. So we're very fortunate today to have those three interests represented. So we've got Rob Denson from DMACC, who I will let introduce himself here in just a moment. Tony Veland from the AIM Institute, and you've all already met Tyler with TAI. So thank you, all three of you, for being here today and being willing to invest in this conversation and share some of your perspectives. So what I'm going to do first, team, is I'm going to ask each one of them to introduce themselves and tell us a little bit about why they are passionate about this topic of developing leaders in technology. Now, as Tyler said earlier, prep your questions, throw them into the chat, and we'll pick them up and answer them as we go through this. You do not need to hold on to them. So Rob, I'm going to ask you to kick us off.
Yeah, I'm Rob Denson, president of Des Moines Area Community College. I'm the fourth president of DMACC in 57 years, and the first native-born Iowan to be president of the college. And if I survive in this job till December 2nd of this year, I will be the longest serving president in DMACC history. I'm 75 and a half years old, and I have not decided to retire yet. So I got a couple of more years left in me. I'm very pleased to be at DMACC. My second presidency, I was president of Northeast Iowa Community College for 5.5 years. DMACC serves 33,000 credit students, 18,000 non-credit students. And right now, DEI, we consider that a workforce imperative. There's really an unprecedented demand for workers right now in all categories, from truck drivers to teachers to technology workers across the state of Iowa. And as I tell all individuals who are underemployed or just coming out of high school, now is not the time to dilly-dally. Now is the time to double down, because great jobs are there. Iowa is paying better than it's ever paid for workers, with better benefits and better support. So now is the time to get moving. And it really goes back to that saying, no child left behind. I'm saying no person left behind, because anybody right now who will put in the time can really improve their lives, with the state paying last dollar scholarship tuition for over 58 high demand careers where before you take out a loan, the state will pay your tuition. In the last 2 years, we've had 2,886 students draw down $7.2 million in state support to pay their tuition before they had to take out a loan. We began our DEI journey in seriously 6 months before George Floyd. I'm very proud of our institution for kind of getting ahead, probably still late in historical terms, but kind of ahead of the curve with a lot of organizations. So we've got a strategic plan that we're finalizing. We now know that 27.2% of our credit students are students of color. We have 248 military, 5,868 first generation students. We've got students from 39 countries. And now we're even looking harder at neurodiversity and disabilities. And we've got about 500 students here on some kind of a support plan to make sure that we're helping them address any barriers that they may have to learning. I'm also pleased to report that in the last 2 years, 30 to 40% of all of our new hires are diverse. And we have done a better job of making sure that number one, we're recruiting harder, and then we're making sure that we look harder at all of the candidates. And we have made some amazingly good hires that, and as companies have told me for years, a more diverse team is a better team. And I can tell you that is absolutely our experience here at DMACC as new insights come in based on life and personal experiences. Our urban campus, and we've got 12 sites throughout Central Iowa. Our urban campus in downtown Des Moines is the first majority students of color college university campus in the entire state. I'm extremely proud of that. And we're just finishing a $25 million upgrade and addition down there. And to kind of summarize it, again, I was born and raised in Iowa. I love this state and the many accomplishments we've had as a state in so many areas. And as I usually say, after I finish a long list of attributes to Iowa, do we think Iowa is better than sliced bread? I'll remind them that Otto Roeter, 1928, Davenport, Iowa, invented the bread slicer. So we are as amazing as we say we are. We hired our first director of DEI about 1.5 years ago, Naomi C. Young-Wittstruck, really hitting the ground. And we're again finalizing our strategic plan. And as we've seen in the recent census, completing the 2020 census, Iowa is becoming much more diverse. So the only way Iowa will survive from an economic perspective is to make sure that we reach out to all communities and get them into some kind of training leading to great jobs, including in the technology field. And a recent accomplishment of DMACC, Google and a company called Talent Sprint out of India picked DMACC as the first community college or the first college or university in the United States to test pilot their software engineering certificate, where they picked 10 of our computer science students. They gave them the certificate free. They could take it for free. Plus, Google paid them $5,000 each just to do the certificate. Had amazing results. Now they've got 8 colleges and universities across the country doing the second pilot. They had 122 slots available nationally. They allocated us 10 slots, but after our students applied, we got 32 of the slots nationally. And again, the certificate's free for students to take, plus they get $5,000 each to go through the experience. And I can tell you there are a lot of college universities very jealous of this opportunity because it is a game changer for these students that were able to be the ones that piloted it. But going back to Jennifer, what you said, we want more diverse faculty and staff here so that the more diverse student population that's coming to us, not that everybody doesn't care 100% and wants to support, but these individuals, just like all of us, we need to see somebody that looks like us, and it just makes some processes go quicker. So again, thank you. And thanks for TAI. I've been involved with you guys for many, many years, and you do good work.
Thank you, Rob. All right, Tony.
I don't know how the hell I'm going to follow that. There's no way. That is a lot. That is extremely impressive. Tony Veland, I'm the director of member development with the AIM Institute. I've been with them for 5 years. AIM is a nonprofit that is trying to grow a stronger and more diverse tech workforce. I have to admit, and please don't kill me because of this, I am a Nebraska boy, but we do provide services in Iowa. And I've been with them for 5 years, but my background is actually not in technology at all. I actually went to college for engineering and business. I ended up being a financial advisor for 15 years after that. And then 5 years ago, the person that gave me my first job out of college was on AIM's board, kind of told me about what they do. And I'm not a tech guy by any means. I'll just be honest, I'm not a tech guy, but I love the overall picture, right? I mean, tech is growing, it's touching every industry. And I wanted to be able to give back to individuals who look like me and provide them with opportunities that, you know, all these jobs out there are all these companies out there are providing. You know, H3 jobs that you generally don't see people that look like us, especially in communities that I grew up in. And so, you know, my big thing was being able to provide those opportunities and kind of meet people where they're at, right? You know, we talk so much about, you know, DEI. Well, unfortunately, a component of that is, you know, a lot of those individuals that need to be in this space, they may not have the resources, they may not have the connections, they may not have the opportunities that will allow them to get into tech as readily as other people. And so, you know, what we're trying to do is provide those skills, provide those resources, and a lot of that is free of charge. A lot of that is meeting them areas where, you know, they may not have transportation to get to. We want to get to them and provide them with the skills and the learning that they can actually become that talent that we're actually out there looking for. So, it's great work that we're actually doing. I'm very proud of it. And the reason that leadership or producing leadership and developing leadership is so important to me is because when we think about it, we all have, you know, great organizations, you know, great people. And you can do so much when you get all those individuals to go in the right directions. You know, I'm a former athlete, and I know, you know, how difficult it is to take a room full of people who with different backgrounds, different thoughts and perceptions, and get them all to go the right way. And when you do that, you can accomplish so much. But it takes particular skills, right? It takes particular skills. Some of those innate, and some of those that need to be developed. And so it's important to me to make sure that we're getting the right people at the helm so we can, you know, do the most with our organization. So that's why I'm here.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Tony. And I will tell you, I also identify as a tech ally versus a tech person.
There
So
you go.
we're in this together, my friend. Tyler.
Yes. Hi, Tyler Wyngarden, again with Technology Association of Iowa. I'm the Vice President of Strategic Partnerships, which is really just a fancy way of saying it is my job to talk with our member companies on a daily basis. And by and large, the biggest conversation that we've had, I've been in this role for 8 years now, is talent, talent, talent. Where do I find the people? I can't find enough people. We have more jobs open than it would seem warm bodies in the state to take it. And so a lot of our conversations surround with, well, are you fishing in different ponds? DMACC does a great job. The region universities do a great job, but there are lots of technology professionals or technology adjacent professionals that will thrive in these roles. But what it takes is their companies to recognize that and walk them over. The example I would give you is you may have somebody that sits at your front desk in an admin role every day. They show up to work, they have the right attitude, you know, they check all those boxes. Why would you not try to cross that person into a technology career? Because it's a heck of a lot easier to find another admin professional than it is sometimes a developer. So some of the programs that TAI is working on, we have a leadership institute, Iowa Technology Leadership Institute, which is really for individuals who want to be CIO, CTO level professionals. And a lot of that curriculum surrounds giving them access to mentors, access, yes, in Iowa, people who are, let's be honest, white Caucasian males, but also individuals who do not fit that stereotype. They exist, they are out there. And I would say as a, you know, a continuing challenge for TAI is not to just say, well, we have a handful of programs that fulfill that, but how do we embed DEI into every single thing that we do? So it goes so deep as when we are looking for people to present, or we are working on an event, what does diversity look like? Is it just a bunch of old white guys? I think we can do better than that. The second program that we have is that we'll be starting is Iowa Tech Connect, which is really, I would define it as a young professionals program. So in your first 6 years, again, exposing these newly new tech professionals into, do you know about the nonprofits that are tech related that you can get engaged with? Do you know who your peers are that may look different or come from different backgrounds in other organizations? And then how do you effectively communicate to leadership within your own organization that you can do better in this DEI space? I guess I would tie it in a bow with our role being, to sort of connect with 350 plus technology companies on an annual basis. Everybody is working, mostly everybody is working on this. I say the great thing about Iowa is overwhelmingly, they recognize that we need to do better in the DEI space. They want to do something, but oftentimes they don't know how to take that first step. And I think programs like the DEI committee at TAI and things like this really help, because they can help sort of show a pathway and one of many. So hopefully that answers, that's a good overview of an introduction.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. And, it's so interesting to me about having the three of you on here together is we're almost running the spectrum, right? So Tony, you're looking at the younger kind of opportunities we can create, the younger opportunity, the opportunity for, to get kids more engaged, younger people more engaged. And then Rob, we're talking about, I almost said high school. English is apparently very hard for me today. Bear with me a little bit. I apologize. That college level, when they're going to get that skills training side of it in some ways at the, as young adults. And then we're able to step into some programming through TAI with that younger kind of workforce, younger career stage. And then even into that, hey, I want to take this further. I'm loving this. And I see that guy with the C in front of his title, and I want to be that guy or gal, depending on where we're at. And so I think that is, that's Tyler, Deb. I just saw the chat. Sorry. Deb put in the comment, thanks, Mr. TAI. So Tyler, you are now Mr. TAI, which I honestly feel like a little bit appropriate. We're gonna get you a mascot costume now. And so really, like, what I love about this is we're starting to build pipelines, I think, within the state, pipelines for technology, not just technicians or developers, but technology leaders. And we are being very deliberate about the fact that we don't want that to just be, the way it always has been, but to be more reflective of the demographics that Rob brought up, even that, you spelled those out so beautifully. But one of the questions I've had, and I've been very fortunate to be able to be a part of a few different technology programs, some kind of in the private sector, and then some through a different community college here in the state. And one of the things that I observed being parts of those programs is, when people are coming into that and they're looking for, maybe they're building a career or they're going through a career transition, all that focus early days is, here's how you code, here's the language, here's the programming, and oh, by the way, now you've got a team project, figure it out, right? Are we teaching those leadership skills and team dynamics early enough in our programs? And is that part of what y'all are trying to address with the work you're doing? I'm going to go in reverse order this time. Tyler, you want to kick us off with that?
Sure. And I certainly don't want to speak for Tony or Rob, but I would say that, on the education side, a lot of good work is being done. I think for our program specifically, the way we think about it is, let's say you're going to enter Iowa Tech Connect, you're a new technology professional. We're going to assume that you have the technical skills down. What we are going to spend a lot of time focusing then on is, what are your interpersonal skills like? How do you work in teams? How do you work with external vendors? And so, as silly as it kind of sounds, from a soft skill standpoint, we start there because, if I were to make an overgeneralization of our industry, I think the people that I know within the Iowa technology community, they know their stuff. They don't always know, well, what is the best way to work through conflict management or conflict resolution. I'm really having a hard time communicating with one of my coworkers. What are other tools in my toolbox? We teach you how to program really well. We don't always give you that extra tool. And so that's what our programs focus on. The last thing I would say though is, outside of even just the TAI realm, I think I was at a conference in Omaha yesterday. Tony and I were talking about this.
Yeah.
Just as many sessions were technical as they were. One of the sessions was how to public speak without throwing up on your shoes or something, I think was the title. And I thought that makes so much sense. We probably take for granted how often, you know, I think the four of us do a lot of that given the nature of our roles. But there are a lot of industry professionals, the doers, that I think, hey, that's not a part of their day-to-day job. So then when they're pushed out and say, hey, go talk to a group, that is very uncomfortable for them. So we try to focus on a lot of those kind of things.
Yeah. Yeah. And for some, it's not just uncomfortable, it's downright terrifying. So
Absolutely.
yes, 100%. Yeah. Tony, over to you with that same question. What's your thought on how or not how, but when are we addressing those leadership skills early enough, those maybe softer side skills?
Well, I would agree with Tyler, to be completely honest with you. I think for the most part, when you bring somebody on, you know, the first thing you're thinking about is what actual technical skills, whether it's coding, whether it's, you know, network stuff, you know, all those types of things are the stuff that they're going to be doing day to day. But I think where the fall off is the interpersonal things, the soft skills, the thinking about, you know, career development, all those types of things, because those are the things we focus on. And so so real quick, I want to make a correction. We do focus on the youth, but we also have programs for our adults as well. You know, we have our Success Academies, which two different academies, our Emerging Tech Leaders Academy and then our Advanced Tech Leaders Academies. And basically just kind of differentiate the two. Our Emerging Tech Leaders are for individuals who are doing really, really good in their tech track. And a lot of times you see somebody that's doing amazing, and the first thing you think as a boss is maybe I need to turn that person to a manager, you know, but sometimes that's not necessarily the right move. So we put together this cohort so that the people get a chance to actually learn, you know, what is it like to be a manager? What are the things you need to learn? What are the issues that you're going to be dealing with on a daily basis? Give them a chance to kind of kick the tires of the program before actually making that decision. That way, you know, you don't mess up a great track. You don't mess up, you know, the great situation that you guys had before by making him a manager if they don't want to be a manager. Okay, so that's the other one program. The other program is our Advanced Tech Leaders, and that's for individuals who have been in management for 3 or 4 years, but they just want to upskill. They just want to further develop and have that leadership. And so, and that's just like, you know, Tyler talked about. It's not necessarily the tech skills. It's really more things like change management. You know, how do you influence? You know, giving them examples of your leadership in the day in the life of, you know, this particular individual, so that they get practical examples of how to take that information back and actually apply it to kind of where they are right now. And I will say one thing that's really great about our program is, and I'm sure it's similar to Tyler's, is that, you know, our program is a 7-month program and it's 1 day a month, where we have 7 different, you know, people who are giving those presentations. They're all from 7 different industries, you know, different backgrounds. We don't look for, and don't take offense, we don't look for just, you know, your quintessential white person who's been in this business for a long time. You know, we're looking for women, we're looking for minority backgrounds. So they get a chance to have different perspectives, different experiences, and you can take that back and actually apply that practically to kind of what they're doing. So, and that's what we're kind of focused on.
Yeah, thanks. And thanks for clarifying that. I appreciate it. And I knew that you had shared that before. that just flew right out of my head. I'm super glad you emphasized that. I appreciate that. Yeah. So Rob, to you, because I think it's interesting with DMACC, and it sounds like similar to what Tony was actually just describing with DMACC, you almost have that box where you can pull in different parts of the recipe for your students with all the faculty and staff you have. Tell us how and where you think that's excelling or challenged in your area.
Well, particularly in our career and technical programs. So all of our students that are here for an experience that isn't designed to lead to a 4-year degree, if they're looking for something to get into a job, we try to bake into every one of our courses the technical skills, obviously, but also those employability skills or soft skills that students need. And when a student gets to the end of the experience, we are now creating a free capstone experience for them, because oftentimes they're going through their courses, they're experiencing employability skills, but they don't even know what they're learning at the time they're learning it. So we're going to do a couple-hour capstone experience where we remind them, here are the things that you need to do in order to be successful in your job. I mean, and as Tyler said, when you hire one of our students, you can expect them to have the technical skills, but it's those employability skills that are going to make them successful long-term and move up within your organization. So we're doing that, but we're also looking at recommending an onboarding experience, because we bring in professionals and you just expect them to have these things. But as a part of our orientation, we want to say, okay, here are the things that are important to us that you need to focus on if you want to move up in the organization. And it's all employability skills, such as, being here on time. Call us if there's an issue, you can't come in, whatever. Just let us know what's going on in your life that may impact us. Do your day job like a rock star, take on additional assignment, and also do that exceptionally well. And you're going to stand out in the crowd because just like any employer, number one, if we've got a great opportunity for a new initiative or a new experience, we're going to pick the employee that we believe will most likely be successful. And you've got to prove to us that you can do that. And number two, I tell every student when they graduate, give 110% to your employer. If they don't appreciate it, somebody else is watching. Because I can guarantee you that, I know some openings that we're going to have in DMACC, and I'm always watching employees of other community colleges, and I know who the fire breathers are. And so as soon as we get an opening, they're number one on my hit parade. And we don't always get them, but we make sure we know who are the high performers in our industry across the state and actually outside the state to the extent we can. But I mean, and again, I always used to say our biggest competition at DMACC wasn't Kirkwood. It was a $15 an hour job. That job's now paying $20 an hour, and that's going to get worse. So we got to be out there hustling, but we want our students to leave here and be successful. That makes them better alumni, more likely to contribute to us in many ways as they move up through their corporate systems. And I will tell you, I'm not going to mention the company, but we had a scholars program where we were teaching a particular skill. Our students would leave us, go to work for the company and do well. Well, the demand for that classification became so large that the company started just hiring people off the street and teaching them just the little bit of skill they needed to do that particular job. Well, we watch it over time. Those individuals that have moved up in the company into leadership, they're all our students. They had the gen eds, they had the depth of experience, and those individuals that just came off the street, I mean, they've got a good job, but they're really not moving through the system like students. And gen ed, a lot of people say, God, these gen eds, English and speech, that's important. And it's important just to broaden people's horizons because they're much more interesting employees. But between what we bake into our courses, the capstone experience that I hope we have in place by next spring, and then a better onboarding, so you let your employees know what your expectations are, I think are three things that are important.
Please go ahead.
Sorry, can I just add, Rob hit the nail on the head there. I think too, when we talk with students, I mean like K-12 students, it is not sexy or particularly illuminating to talk about, here's a database, or like it's hard to physically show that, right? And so like if we want to attract kids into this industry, more of the discussion needs to be around working in teams, solving creative problems. Yes, using technology to do that, but I think the organizations, and DMACC's one of them, who does a really good job of getting into those schools and showing kids it's not just sitting at a computer banging out code, but here's all the different technology careers. That helps bring more people that would otherwise self-select out of the industry. I think that's an important thing, that the organizations who do it really well. Unfortunately, not everybody is kind of with the times on that yet.
There was a program that I worked for a different community college. Sorry, Rob, I was cheating on you. But but where we did go out to organizations as part of the certification program, and we visited with employers at their site. And half of my class was a reverse matriculated which is a big fancy word for saying they were credit students taking this as part of their certification. So they were in, and they were all technology focused. They were computer support specialists focused. And it was interesting to me to go to some of these employers who had both sides of the certificate that we were looking at, both technology and not technology focused, and how many times their technology leader, either their CIO or their director of technology, somebody in that seat would say, you don't even need to have the tech skills. If you've got all those soft skills, I will teach you the tech skills.
There you go.
Now, I'm not doing any of you necessarily a good favor by saying that, because then people become demotivated to get in your program. But I always thought that was interesting because of that, the necessity of focusing on the skills, those technical skills early on, really in any learning program, whether we're talking about, technology or we're talking about farming, the skills part of it is always that early emphasis. And so I like what each of you said in your own way about integrating those together. Tyler, from TAI's perspective, hey, we're not here to give you the tech skills. You got to come here with them. We're going to teach you how to be effective holding on to those skills and leading people. Because Tony, I've had that experience of being in organizations where the best tech is the leader, and you're just like, God, that guy's a nightmare, or that girl has no idea how to talk to people, but she's in charge, so it can really be tough. Yeah.
I apologize. I really agree with, what you just said about, but I'll disagree with that. Yeah. It is pushing away people from not taking these classes. Because if you think about what you just said, if you've got the leadership skills, if you've got those soft skills, then the tech skills might not matter as much. So, take advantage of these courses, and people see that you have that innate ability, that innate skill, and they're going to be able to open the door because you already have some tech skills because you're in this organization, right? Yeah. So it might open the doors to other places. So I completely agree with that.
Yeah. And it is always amazing to me how much, I see Melissa's here from Delta V. I spent a little bit of time with Delta V, and just like, I picked up enough ability to be a technology person to like be really dangerous and break a bunch of stuff. Like, you tell me it can't be broken, I will prove you wrong. And that's what Delta V taught me. Sorry, Melissa, I'm not being a very good ad. No, but I think so. As we look at, as we look at how your programs are anticipating the future, and we look at how are we arming and educating the technicians that are coming out of programs and the leaders that are coming out of programs, what are we anticipating those future leaders are going to need? And how are you all what things are you all looking at for indicators of that? And how are you trying to get in front of that? Because that becomes the bread and butter of the programs you're running right now. So Rob, I'm actually going to start with you this time, and then we'll go around to the others.
Okay, it's really quite simple. We're as successful as we are because every one of our programs has an advisory committee that hires students out of those programs that we have. I mean, by accreditation, we have to meet with them so many times a year. They tell us what competencies to be training, and even looking into the future, they tell us what equipment we need, what software we need. So we're required to keep up with that because they're hiring these students when they graduate. We have 97% of our students are from Iowa, 95% stay in Iowa after they graduate, and they've got good jobs. And a high percentage of them end up with the companies that are on our advisory committee. So I can't keep up on all the fields of AI or agriculture, whatever, but I can tell you the companies that are hiring our students, they're not only keeping up, they're thinking down the road. So they're telling us, okay, you need to be ready for whatever the next generation is. And that's what makes it exciting. I mean, our challenge is having the money to keep current with all the equipment as it continues to, evolve. I mean, we do a pretty good job of it because we have to. But, that is the key to our success. It's our advisory committees, and then our willingness to listen to them and implement what they tell us.
Yeah, that technology turnover has got to be tough for educational institutions to stay in front of. I can absolutely see that. Tony, how about you?
I will say a little bit of the same. We obviously have committees that help us, come up with curriculum and those type of things. But I think one of the things that we've found over the last couple of years, and not even just with our leadership program, just with the services that we're providing in general, is that, when you teach people the tech skills, you kind of realize that, the soft skills are one particular piece that, needs to be developed. But the bigger part for that, and even our other programs, is just the human capital piece. It's bringing people along. It's having some type of mentor or having some type of example that can actually walk people, through these particular situations. We found that initially we were, getting people, because our niche is kind of entry level, get you to the point where you can get into a company and let the company take over. We found in the past that, we were getting people into these companies, and some of them were quitting because they didn't understand the business environment. They felt uncomfortable. They didn't know how to relate to everybody. And we felt like, okay, well, maybe if we match them with a person that's been in the business for a while, it gives them the chance to ask those questions that they may be too scared to ask when they're actually in the company, gives them more insight about what to expect in that first 6 months within the organization. So that helps quite a bit. And then with our academies, if I'm matching them with, alumni that's been there for a long time, well, that only increases their chances of being successful within the organization, because now they have experience, they have resources. If something happens down the line, they have connections that may be able to open up the door for opportunities. So that human piece for us has really been kind of the game changer.
Yeah, thanks, Tony. I appreciate you focusing on that. And I have a feeling Tyler's going to pick up your theme.
Unmute myself here. Yeah, no, I agree with everything Rob and Tony said. I guess where I would add on is, yeah, the mentorship part is huge. And I think the good thing about Iowa is, for the most part, people want to help. They're accessible. And our role is to really help make and facilitate those connections. We call it executive presence. So similar to, Tony is saying, is we spend time in our program saying, what does executive presence mean? Is it just the clothes that you're wearing? Is it the way you talk to people? Is it, being prepared for the, it's these other sort of tangential things that, but we try to distill them down so our people going through the program go, I probably knew that in the back of my head, but writing it out and making it a physical, the manifestation of that makes it real to me, of like, okay, well, now I'm going to remember when I'm in front of that room, I'm going to take a pause and I'm going to ask who has questions, as opposed to, this is what I need you to do. See you guys later. So it's a lot of those things: organizational development, strategic, building strategic teams. So that's where I think we spend the most amount of our time.
Yeah, no, I love that, because I literally just got finished teaching a block to a big chunk of my organization that I work for, our daily fundamentals of effective meetings, as an example, and I'm talking to a group of 80 leaders who, have been in the organization anywhere from 2 days to, 20 years. And so we've got this big range of experience, but it's sometimes you have to go to those basics, right? Of just, this is what we're talking about, and let's all just get on the same page and be there, because now you're not just memorizing how to with something, you are needing to read a room. You are needing to understand how to organize time for not just yourself, but an entire group of people, and keep them all pointed the same direction. My favorite commercial in the entire world is the Wells Fargo herding cats commercial. Herding, H-E-R-D, not hurting, herding. I want to be clear with that. And y'all Google it if you haven't seen it, and you will relate to it as your workplace. I will almost guarantee it. All right. I'll send you a $5 coffee card if you don't. But Melissa, don't argue with me. Just argue with me, ma'am. I see your face. But I think it's such for me, it's a beautiful metaphor for leadership, but I'm a leadership trainer. So that's where we're coming from with that. But I like what everybody talked about here with, Rob, just that very real, constraint that we can have around budget when you're trying to anticipate and respond to future needs. Tony, you talked about the power, not just of mentoring, but of the network, right? Of tapping into that network of resources that you have. And Tyler kind of bringing it home with, I think, the idea of, hey, here's where you are, but think about where you could be. Like, that's what I took away from what you were saying, is it's not just about, like, you have the title, you have the skills, but God, what's possible here? what could you possibly create, that presence that you could build, that persona that you can really embody and authenticate as a leader. So I appreciate y'all sharing those thoughts, because they're so key. I want to open up for audience comments or questions or experiences that you've had in these realms that you might find helpful to share with the rest of the group as well. Or again, just any questions that you might have for any of our panel members.
Real quick, I'd love to hear a little bit about how you guys engage with your students or the people working through your program to push them into some of those leadership roles where they might not see themselves in that position. I think when you're in that situation where you're just trying to learn that technology, it can be difficult to think, okay, I have to go above and beyond that now to learn these leadership skills, potentially manage projects, manage teams. What are some of the tools that you guys use to bring up those students or communicate the value of taking on these leadership roles?
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Yeah,
many
Rob.
of our programs have internship requirements where as a part of their program, they're required to go out and work in industry. So that's been very helpful. Work-based learning. I mean, most of our students are working one or more jobs while they're going to school and have got children, et cetera. So we try to, we number one, try to get them employed in an area that's related to their major, and which many companies are now using as a part of their pipeline, either through registered apprenticeships or other alternatives. But, again, that these kids are going to work somewhere. Let's get them to work somewhere related to their major. And then our faculty, well, number one, we find out that they're better students in the classroom when they're coming out of the same industry into the classroom to talk about what it's like to work in that industry. But also, we talk again. I mentioned the employability skills, but it's just how to get involved. And then again, we're a very flat organization, so we reach out to students and others to assist in many of the activities of the college, whether it's the club, whatever, so that they understand that there's a professionalism in addition to whatever career you've got. You got to be a professional, and we talk about what are the state and national associations related to your career, and as a general rule, our faculty member is always a member of those organizations, so we introduce them to that, and we spend a lot of time promoting our students. If they're we'll send them on trips, etc. If they're high performers, we reward them with some kind of a benefit that not everybody gets.
Yeah, love it. Tony, you want to take that one? Or do you have anything to add? I should ask. You're not forced to answer it.
Yeah, honestly, I don't have anything to add, and I'll be honest, because I'm I do more business development. I'm in front of a lot of the companies. I'm not really with the programs as much. It's hard for me to answer that question other than to say, kind of along the same lines of what Rob was talking about. Within our academies, obviously, our capstone projects are the way for our leaders to kind of step up. Like, and I think what they do is they try to implement it in a way that there's not one person that's kind of doing all the talking or doing all the planning. That's one way that they try to get in there, try to make sure that their skills are actually showing up where it's supposed to be. Now I can't talk about my programs, which are actually the schools, because we're in about 16 schools from third grade up to high school. And we do a lot of things between college visits to teamwork building programs and those type of things. So I can't really speak to those, but I would imagine some of the same things that Rob is doing as well.
Yeah, Tyler.
David, good question. I would say, I will say, look, not everybody needs to be a leader. There is just being in the industry is great. And I think sometimes there's this hustle culture, this okay, I got to the next thing, it's the next thing. And if you want that, great. But sometimes, just having a job that you enjoy, totally fine too, right? That being said, I think for our programs, we do things like, okay, you're in the leadership program. You're going to be called on. You're going to be forced to, I'm going to force you to go up and talk in front of the group. I'm going to force you to go to and so we are going to purposely make you uncomfortable, because in doing that, you're going to realize, all right, maybe this isn't so scary. I think the other big thing too is, again, I'll go back to, God love my membership, and the technology professionals in Iowa overwhelmingly want to connect, want to help. And so we spend a lot of time of, just because they have a C in front of their name, they still put their pants on one leg at a time. They're still human. They have hopes and fears and dreams, just like you. You don't have to talk to them on some super high, superficial, level of technology. Ask them how their family is, And so I think sometimes we get too in our heads about, I got to position myself. Everybody has FOMO, or not FOMO. Everybody has imposter syndrome, and I have to position myself as this professional who knows everything, because it's like, no, we don't all have it figured out. And I think by acknowledging that up front, and then just saying, okay, now talk about it, and putting people in those situations, it helps. While maybe painful, it helps strengthen that muscle that can get atrophied a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. Tony raised this earlier, and you just raised it again, Tyler. And I think I've seen an interesting thing happening in some organizations where they are actually very formally developing a leadership track and a technical track. Right. So within the organization, you can literally just be like, take the pressure off. I don't want to lead people. Like, I love being a developer. I love managing, deployment projects. Like, just let me do that. I don't want to lead people. And I think that that's okay. I'm with you. I think moving away from that idea that the only path is up, sometimes the path is across.
Yeah.
I spent a large chunk of my corporate career moving very laterally, because I very consciously didn't want to move to the next level, because I saw what that was going to ask from me. And I didn't want to do it at that part of my life. I think that's a very okay thing to embrace. And that's probably part of the messaging that people are getting really from all three of these organizations, is what I'm hearing is that, like, it's okay. But if you step into this, step all the way in, experience it, and then decide, like, it doesn't, you don't have to be afraid of it. And I think, Julia, you asked a question. There it is. So Julia asked, and I think this is maybe a great question for us to kind of roll out with, is when you've got somebody who's coming into any of your programs who might be interested in technology, has got this experience, and I'm kind of describing myself, I think, right next to you, Julia, where there's been enough exposure that you have some ideas, not real techie, but kind of interested in maybe that kind of role. Where would you recommend, and you can say your own organization, but you have to also add something else. Where would you point them? Do you think that they can transition into something like that? Or do you feel like really our industry is looking for, you've got to have this full level certification in this way, or this full degree? What's your sense? Tyler, we'll start with you, and then I'll go through.
I'll give the non-answer answer, which is it depends. Certainly I think that we for too long have been having our blinders on, that tech is this very narrow band of stuff. And tech is marketing, tech is sales. Certainly it is development, it's front and back. So I would say, if you want to be, a heads down coder type of person, there's a ton of great meetup groups. We put on a conference. There's lots of other conferences out there. Go on Eventbrite, but the meetup groups are really, really great, especially in the Iowa ecosystem. So that's where I would point people on the developer side. They just want to get exposed to tech in general. I would really point them towards more of the conference route. The conference I was in Omaha the other day, I said there was non-technical versus, there's two types of programming. And I think you can find a lot of the conferences are free, if not really affordable. And that's kind of usually my first step. Or Tech Brew AM, which is a program that I know you said you can't say our programs, but I think Tech Brew AM I have to pitch it, is one that we do every month. And I consider that to be the front door to, at least to our organization. And we have professionals from all different industries, tech and non-tech. And usually in those conversations, I said, well, you need to talk to this person because you have a similar interest, or you're trying to solve a similar problem. So again, I think you said it, Jennifer, step out and commit to that, kind of whichever one you want. Does that answer your question? Hopefully.
Yeah, Julia, if we need to clarify, please jump in.
Oh, no, you described what I was thinking
Okay.
very clearly, Jennifer. Thank you.
Okay, good, because I felt like a jumbled mess when I said it, but Tyler seemed to answer the gist of it, so I felt like maybe I got there. Rob, how would you answer that?
Well, I mean, I am a non-techie, but, you know, find situations where you're forced to learn. And I will tell you, pre-COVID, I always wanted to be better at video conferencing and saving, you know, historically, I would get into a car, drive 90 minutes for a 30-minute meeting and drive 90 minutes back. That's just damn crazy. And I never would. And right now, I mean, I save thousands of miles of college time and my bottom by you know, and do twice as many meetings by getting good at Teams and Zoom and some of these other things. And it was just a matter of forcing myself to be comfortable with it. So I think, you know, putting yourself in a situation where you don't have any choice but to learn is good. I'm not a big fan of national conferences anime. I just think we spend a lot of money on it, and they usually have them in the most expensive places on earth. And we've not done a good job of harvesting information from people who come back from those conferences. But you just look at what's going on in the state. You got the TAI, you got Iowa Association of Business and Industry. I mean, the Greater Des Moines Partnership, or whoever your chamber is. There are lots of opportunities for growth just by hanging around the people that you should be interacting with anyway. You know, going to Washington D.C. on a partnership trip, that's a good thing to do, because it's just exposing yourself to new opportunities. And I always say, I spent 25 years in Florida on witness protection, and then when I came back here, working in Central Iowa, I mean, I always say that everybody in Central Iowa, anybody in a leadership position, we all know each other, and except for one, we like each other. So call upon your, you know, and you don't have the old higher ed handshake. You know, it's not asking for money, but, you know, share information, be a good partner. That's the number one thing. DMACC historically hasn't always been a good partner. And as I tell everybody, we do not need to make money on any deal. We just got to break even. And I'll show you my books. Because you know, we've been successful because we try to be damn good partners.
Yeah, I love it. Every time Rob speaks, I'm like, I want to go back to school just so I can go to Rob's school.
You haven't even heard my rap to Uptown Funk. I mean, that's
all right, we're doing this again tomorrow, so Rob can do that. Tony, follow that.
Yeah, I'm gonna be quick. I'm tempted to go back to ask about this witness protection thing, but I'm gonna let that be what it is.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
So I'm gonna. So I am going to be, unfortunately, kind of self-promoting with AIM. So, you know, we run across a lot of people who are just trying to get into tech, and, you know, tech touches so much, so it can be overwhelming. You know, you may not know where to start. And so we have a position within our organization called a Tech Navigator, which their whole job is to basically narrow down that path. You know, what are your skills? You know, where are you trying to go to? You know, these are the certifications that you may need to get. And, you know, we focus on, again, on our niche is entry. So it's not like we're trying to have everybody, you know, take our classes. Our thing is, if you're past our classes, we're going to move you to a partner, you know, whether that's, you know, this particular college or whether that's getting this other certification like this. Our whole goal, again, is just to build a better and stronger tech workforce. So if you have any kind of, you know, passion or you know, idea of getting into this, it would be a great way to, you know, come here with, you know, no pressure, you know, type of situation, and just like, I want to get into tech. I don't know where to start. You know, what do I need to do? And, you know, we've been around 30 years. You know, we've worked with probably 70% of the organizations that are actually in this area. So we know what companies have need, and we know where the opportunities are. So I think that would be a great way to start, just to be able to kind of dumb things down and find out where that opportunity really is.
Yeah. You know what I love about all three of your answers was I gave you that guideline of you can't talk about yourselves. All three of you did, but what you talked about it in relation to was the way that you build your partnerships and your networks within this community. And I think that's really that tapestry that we are weaving across the state. I'll get a little woo-woo for you. But that tapestry that we really are weaving that is providing all of these resources. You know, I see,
I'll be in a minute.
I've lived here for 17 years now, I think. And, you know, seeing just the evolution of this state for the last 17 years and how much smaller it's gotten from where I sit. Now, was it always that small? Maybe, I don't know. But, you know, the resources between the communities seem to be connecting in a more vibrant way than they have historically. And my eye wants to cry for that. It's not because I have something in it, but no, I do think it's amazing. And we really are trying to create a place where people can prosper here and where people can find the skills that they need and keep them here and keep our state strong and vibrant. And I think the work that we get to do as people who are invested and care about diversity, we get to help create a climate that helps that to be sustainable. And so as we're developing our programs, as we're bringing new people into the organization, there was a lot of really good things that were shared here around the idea of not just getting someone hired, but making the environment attractive for them to stay. That is universally applicable. And it sounds like the key that all three of our presenters talked about today was that idea of mentorship and connection and collaboration and building their pathway for the future. So, we are just at about time, and I want to thank each one of our panelists today. I do want to give you each have a minute for a final thought. But I do just want to thank you, and I want to thank everybody for coming today and being part of the discussion. We are going to continue to do these. We have our next one. Well, we were going to skip May and we're going to go into June for the next one. And Tracy, I just blanked on what the next topic is. Tracy Hodson, help me out. You were at our last meeting. I'm blanking.
And of course, you say it, and then mine went blank too.
Was it K-12? I don't remember. Look at the website. Molly will remember. Oh God. I'm so sorry. My brain just went 100%. I'll remember as soon as we disconnect. Either way. Final thoughts, Tony.
I just want to, thank everybody for being here and listening and being concerned about, the future of our tech workforce. I think these types of, conversations help us to move the needle forward. I'm glad to be a part of this. And if any of you guys have any questions or want any information from me, feel free to reach out aiminstitute.org and, we can do what we can for you.
Thanks, Tony. Rob.
If you know anybody that's underemployed, looking for a new opportunity, coming out of K-12, whatever, just get them taking the next step. 40% of Iowa high school graduates are not going on to college. I mean, that is a crime in this state. We need to get more and more of those individuals on a pathway to success. Education is the guaranteed way to improve yourself. And it's never been better in the state of Iowa. I criticize the state about some things, but overall they provided avenues for people to get the training at a low debt and some good opportunities. So just get off the couch and do it.
Thanks, Rob. All right, Tyler, final words for TAI.
Sure. I would say be a resource. We heard about a lot of good things. I would love my challenge for the people on the webinar is look into AIM and then tweet or post and say, hey, there's this cool program. Look at the programs that DMACC has. Share that on your social media. There are people that look to you guys for information. And I think the more that we can all make an effort to share those resources and be a center of gravity for that, the benefit to the state will come.
I love that. Thank you, Tyler. Thank you all. Oh, nice work, Deb. She's on it. She just accepted your challenge before you were even done talking.
Love it.
Man, love that energy, my friend.
Thank you all.
Yeah, thank you all. Have a great day.